justice is something that cannot be a rare entity. It has to be everywhere. And when places become unwelcoming, unsafe, we have to stand tall towards that environment. And we have one such voice, in fact, among us, Dr. Alana Golmei, a lawyer, an activist, and a relentless voice for dignity and equal rights. And before, in fact, let's welcome Dr. Alana Golmei.
Ma'am, thank you so much for speaking to Republic, and welcome to the Republic Women's Summit. This is a place made for women like you, for example setters like you. And just to give everybody a little bit more context, she is not just a lawyer, she's a humanitarian. She is also a women's activist, and she does not only work for equality, but she also works heavily against racial abuse. A lot of cases that we keep seeing in Delhi. So I think a chat with you is as relevant as it gets.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the first thing that I want to understand, now we have you at the intersection of not just gender, race, but also legalities. You have a proficiency in legalities, but you also understand what racial abuse is like. You have been a shoulder to women, who have faced abuse in their life, who faced inequality in their life. We say that India has some of the best laws when it comes to women and to support women against atrocities. Where do you think the gap lies? Is it the law? Is it the legislation, the execution, or is it still the minds of the people?
I would just like to flag out two things here. First of all, the implementation part. Of course, like you rightly said, that we have the best laws in the country. But then why crimes against women are still happening? Why it is not stopping? The more laws you have, in 2012, you know the Nirbhaya case, when then later on, thereafter, they have constituted a Justice Verma committee. And we have amended the rape law. But still, the number of rape cases and crimes against women are still reporting. So that means we need to see that there is a gap of the laws that we have, the legislation that we have, the provisions that we have, but still in the implementing part. And also, of course, the prosecution. I will be very frank in this. Prosecution is very weak in our country. So I think there are a few things that needs to be addressed.
Ma'am, also, just to understand, when we speak about equality, of course, it's cerebral. But we also just heard that the legal spaces, especially when it comes to education, they are dominated by women candidates. But why is it that when this number gets converted into actual courts, the number doesn't remain the same? In actual courts, in actual judicial system, women then get outnumbered by men.
Yes, of course, this is very unfortunate. I just feel that for more than thousands of years in our country, women are being suppressed. We do talk about women, we do talk about women empowerment, but I think when it comes to practical, when it comes to reality, I think the voice of women are less represented. So we are not given that opportunity. I still feel that male still dominates, the entire institutions. For example, in elections, let me just bring into this. I would just say in Manipur context, when a male candidate is contesting an election, why would only women lining up to vote for male? I mean, if there were any female candidate, this is a big question. Would any female be standing there to vote for female? I have a very big doubt about it. So I think this has to do with also, sensitization with that we need to really tell women that you can do it. But the problem is that we have been, when you say, women cannot do it, you are a weaker section. So we are made to believe that in a patriarchal society like ours, the women are supposed to be only, below men. That you cannot come up, and then you cannot be the decision-making, in the decision-making process. So I think all this has still ingrained in us that we women also sometimes, we're patriarchal ourselves, So I think from this, we need to, come out of this.
Ma'am, in fact, that was a great answer. But I also want to understand now, how do you think India's idea as a community, not just a country, but as a community, how do you think our idea of equality has evolved? And of course, you are free to talk about the legal space, but I also mean like generally, since you've been around so many survivors, you are in touch with what is happening. We here are the privileged ones. I'm not saying that we won't have these problems, but we definitely don't have it as bad as a lot of women. And most women are not as privileged as the women sitting in this room. So what do you think? Has India's understanding of equality evolved, or is there a lot more scope?
I think, yes, I cannot say that things have not changed. Yeah. Because as a young woman, even I would say over 2 decades ago, the police were not even, sensitized. They used to smile when a woman is coming to the police station. But I felt that, things are changing, actually. And also, I do believe in the young minds and the younger generation that I'm sure things will change. But as far as now the present time is concerned, yes, there needs to do a lot of things. When you are talking about crimes against women or women empowerment, it should not be amongst women. We have to start talking to men. Men should get involved. Men should also come out on the streets. If there is anything injustice is done to women, it should not be only women talking about themselves. It should not be only women fighting for justice for women. But I think it is also men should be involved. Yes, of course, as you said, charity begins at home. So in the family, it should not be boys. Parents also has to start the work of telling the boys, the siblings that, it is only not women who should be being in the kitchen, who should be doing the household chores, but also equality. That means it starts from home, and I think this has to be taught. We tend to think that, okay, in the syllabus, for example, or in schools, but I think the most important thing is that it has to start from home, where boys should be sensitized.
We're honored to have you here, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now we're going to welcome two very special guests who are with us. Aparajita Singh, a senior advocate, Supreme Court of India. She began her career in 1997. She trained under India's top legal minds and has represented landmark cases including the Upar fire tragedy, Delhi air pollution, and defended legendary actor Dilip Kumar. Designated a senior advocate in 2019, she embodies conviction, courage, and commitment through her work. And we also have with us Diksha Goswami, again advocate on record, Supreme Court of India, with over a decade of representing the state of Assam and Union of India. She also advises private clients, provides free legal aid through the Supreme Court Legal Services Committee. Sharp, principled and precise, she continues to shape justice at the highest levels. Thank you to both of you, and this is a conversation that's going to be moderated by my colleague Rhythm. Thank you to both of you for coming.
It's wonderful to have a panel finally with two people who've been escaping coming on Republic TV for the longest time. But other than the jokes, I want to tell our viewers and I want to tell everyone, there are places of power in the parliament, there are places of power in politics, and then there are places of power in the highest courts of the country. And I think you represent a space in that arena, which we're going to talk about. It's very easy to speak about what we've just seen. Aparajita, for you, you're a senior advocate in the Supreme Court. You've been in pro bono in the Upahar case, the Neelam Katara case, representing some big names. And you've always been working with precision, with directness, and with a lot of hard work. When it comes to you, Diksha, several very big cases that you've been a part of, the NJAC case, the Triple Talaq case, you're representing and a part of the Standing Council for the state of Assam. You've also represented the central government, the Maharashtra government, and also the Arunachal Pradesh government. We want to understand from you how it is to navigate being a part of these governments and also working as a woman lawyer. So that's the first question I'm going to ask both my guests today. Aparajita, I begin with you. In a place that is male-dominated, the Supreme Court of India, when is it you felt for the first time that you were being heard and respected?
Frankly, right from the beginning. So my journey, if I can describe
Please.
I don't have a legal background, you know that. So when I passed out from Campus Law Center in 93, 3, so 96, sorry. And I just, during our times, there was no cell phone. So 197 I dialed, and I took the number of Mr. Gopal Subramaniam, and then I called his office. His clerk came on the line, and then I said, I want to work with Mr. Gopal Subramaniam. He transferred the call to Mr. Subramaniam.
Wow.
He spoke to me, and he said, okay, my chamber is full, but I'll give you a reco. He called me the next day, I went there. He gave me a reco for Mr. Dholakia, whom I joined. Again, Uday Lalit was my second senior. I saw him arguing in court against Mr. Dholakia, and I realized this man is so calm, he speaks so nicely, and he's so, dignified. And he was an advocate in record. So I went and spoke to him after that. He said, join. Same with Mr. Salve. I saw him arguing one of the river dispute matters. I thought he was the Solicitor General, and I thought he was wonderful. So I just went and asked him, can I join you? And he said, from tomorrow.
Wow.
So I never felt like a woman, and I never felt that my gender was a problem when I entered the profession.
So I asked the same question to you, Diksha. Traditionally male-dominated. How is it your journey was, and did you have backing? How did this come about? The first question: when did you first feel heard?
So I think Aparajita's answer, I can happily adopt it. The amazing thing about these corridors of justice is that even when you come without a legal background, if you're ready to put in the hard work, there's always space for you. And I think that goes true for any field. So I remember, of course, for my first internship, I had I had to wait almost a year before the first office accepted me. But after which I realized, if you show that you're ready to work, all doors open for you. So my first internship was with a litigation firm. After I worked a few years, they absorbed me when I joined the profession. And I went to the office of Mr. Rohtagi after the litigation firm. And he's, he was the former Attorney General. He's the former Attorney General and top practitioner. What I realized is the same story as Aparajita. I requested, after I'd worked 2-3 years in Parekh & Company, I went and I requested, sir, if I could work with him. And he said, maybe you should do the High Court first. And I said, sir, I'll go back to that if you give me an opportunity. And once I joined him, then, he started depending more on your work. And the result is that if you're ready to work, I think all doors will open for you. That is a message I think any, a new lawyer can take from us. It will not matter if you're a girl, you're a boy. The doors will open if you're ready to work.
No, that's well said. Then our next question I ask you, Aparajita. You've done pro bono work in the Upar case, the Neelam Krishnamurthy case, in the Upar case in the lower court, the trial court, the Supreme Court. It's taken too long for justice to have come, even though it's come. Do you think somewhere delays are a bane of the judicial system? How can it be reformed?
I don't think justice came to them, really, if you ask me.
I agree. In lots of ways, I agree.
Yeah, I don't think I've done both the cases. Of course, Upar, because of Mr. Salve was the solicitor when it started. He appeared for the state. And then both Mr. Salve and I, we did it pro bono, right from the trial court till Supreme Court. And the High Court, first, the charges were not framed as they should have been framed for a higher offense. Secondly, even 304A, the charges, the sentence is 2 years. Even that was finally reduced. To cut it short, it was finally reduced to 1 year by the Supreme Court and 6 months for one person, then again 1 year. So the thing is, after the couple who lost both their children, and where everything was in their favor, it was complete negligence on part of the cinema owners. And if that took so much time to come from, decades to come from the trial court to the High Court, and they get away with 1 year, I feel justice was not done to them.
And I don't think there's any respite in that. It's alas. I ask the same question to you, but in a different case, Diksha. The Shaira Bano case, the triple talaq case that you were a very important part of, it's no longer a part of India. Triple talaq has been banned. Just recently, however, Justice Malhotra was telling me, she met a woman in the hospital and the woman was telling her, a Muslim woman, that, ma'am, see my mobile. My husband has just given me triple talaq on the phone. So even though the law of the land has changed, these women don't have their remedy. How do we modify that?
See, law is one aspect, and then interpretation and implementation of law is another aspect. Of course, change has to come from the society. And as far as these customary, because each religion has its own, we still don't have a uniform civil code which is implemented effectively. There are a lot of avenues which will have to change. In fact, instances of these kind of matters are even pending in the Supreme Court today. And even after law is declared with respect to them, how the society will slowly evolve will have to come from us. And that I speak not just as a lawyer, but as a woman. We will have to stand up for our rights. We will have to take up these cases one after another. And the change will have to come from us.
All right. On that note, as I thank you both for being here, I say we are seeing a lot of achievement, but it comes with years of reading, years of looking at citations, years of research, and I congratulate you both for being here because you're keeping a check and balance on the Constitution, not only watching it, but also interpreting it. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Sadhvi Majumdar, who's going to be in conversation with my colleague, Gesu Bharadwaj, on the stage. Thank you so much.
Sadhvi, it's very inspiring to see. Your journey has been extravagant, and it's extremely inspiring to see someone turn their passion into purpose. And not just for personal success, but to set an example for a larger audience, to become a memo for young women to come. I want to start with asking you about your journey. How's it been? How's it look like?
First of all, it's an honor to be here to speak to you. Thank you, Republic TV, for thinking my voice was important enough for womankind. And to see beautiful people and inspiring ladies such as Padma ma'am. I was transfixed looking at her, and to follow this stage after such forces of women, I think it's an achievement in my own right. So I am thankful for it.
I know that you've studied dance. You thoroughly understand it, you're born with it, and you've embraced it for the life to come, right? And I think you're going to do it further also.
Yes.
How do you think that dance, and a form of expression especially, becomes a catalyst to women empowerment? Especially in a time when women can only actually prove their empowerment through expression, through resistance. And I think dance is a culmination of all of it and more.
So, I've started with the classical dance form of Bharatanatyam. That is my forte. There is a book written on Indian aesthetics and dance language called the Natya Shastra, which is 2,000 years old. And it is one of the oldest ancient texts written. And in that, it's written that, how you can dress to see costumes and music and stage and expression and abhinaya. While I started exploring the field of abhinaya, dancing and abhinaya in general, there's this one thing where we are told that we are too much, right? Women are too much. We have complex emotions, we are told. We cannot think straight, apparently. But ironically, that becomes an advantage in the arts of abhinaya and expression, right? Where this became like the only safe space where women could be too much, and that would actually serve for the better of you. So that was kind of a exploration and a learning and realization on my part, because I started dancing when I was 2.5, right? So it's a memory at this point. It's a lifestyle. It's not an art form for me. I cannot tell you what my life was before dancing. My mother is an artist, so I have grown up in a society surrounded by art and the environment. And it was a quiet revolution from the earlier days. You know, it did not come to me one day breaking the doors and be like, hey, you know, it was from the childhood, and I come from a very tiny state, Northeast Tripura, where people haven't maybe even heard about this state. But from there, to make it to Mumbai and then to the global stages and to be a woman in my own right, still be feminine and graceful, and also try to you know, forge a path where males dominate the spaces. I think it is even more important today to be more feminine and more graceful, because I think that is our power, and that is how we will rule the world. I have a feeling that we can do everything a man does better and in heels. That's the only difference. That's all.
Definitely. In fact, you know, I also want to understand. So, social media is not entirely what your job is like,
No.
but it is a huge part
It
of
is,
what you do,
yeah.
right? Even the fact that women would put themselves out there on social media, it's very common for everybody to face some or the other sort of mockery from peer groups or from relatives when you start venturing onto social media for the first time. But that's not the only restriction that women would face.
Yeah.
I think women would also be like they'd be open to public judgment also.
Yeah.
Anybody crossing the street thinks that they would have the right to make a remark on a
Yes.
woman who's just trying to take her own space.
Yes.
So tell me, how do you deal with things like these? And for women who would want to start or venture into performing arts like you have,
Yes.
especially on the digital space,
Yes.
it takes time to grow, and that time is full of mockery.
Yes.
How do you cut that noise out?
Well, I believe everything needs time. I haven't gotten anything overnight. No success of mine has been overnight. It has been a series of failures, and then one day it all made sense. So everything that I went along the way, because at this point I've come to a point where if anything doesn't go my way, I'm actually happy, because I know it's for the greater good, because nothing has happened like that. Social media came to me by accident. I've done reality shows, so I got a decent following from there. I started really young. My first show was Dance Bangla Dance, a regional show in Zee Bangla when I was in 8th grade. Then I went to India's Dancing Superstar, and then I went in 9th grade. Then I did Dance India Dance in 11th grade, and then India's Best Dancer. Then the choreography happened when I moved to Bombay, and then that's history. But there was no social media at that time. I remember I opened Instagram after doing India's Best Dancer, which was like when I was in 10th grade. And because at that time, now a lot of dance reality shows have come, and like, because India is full of talent, there's just so much mad talent in the country. But when we started, it was very niche, you know. People were, and especially from where I come from, Agartala, nobody had done that before. I had beat almost 25,000, 60,000, I don't know, for people to make the top 12, which was unheard of. And so when I went there to the state, back to the state, so it was a completely different thing altogether. But anyway, I got a head start from there. That's when I started into YouTube and then Instagram, and then now it has become a space. It has changed completely, and I like to say, I was having this conversation with my friend, and he was telling me, social media is now social currency, you know. It is not just followers, and no matter how much we say, hey, you know, it doesn't matter. I mean, I would like to say it doesn't matter, because I have a very love and hate relationship with social media. I keep going off and coming back on again, and I know it will never end, but I will only have to find a better solution to exist mutually. But also, you have to understand that I come from a classical background, where I remember I was in 7th, 8th grade, and my guru and I had seen my first international, I'd seen YouTube, I discovered YouTube, and I saw an international Bharatanatyam dancer dancing on an international stage. I saw her choreography, I saw her perform that 1.5 minute piece, and I was transfixed. That was my first access to outside world as to what Bharatanatyam could look like on a stage. Before that, it was just, you know, we used to go to stage, we used to go to class, and so a Bharatnatyam, a traditional Bharatnatyam thing is like a 5-minute, 10-minute thing where you first explain to the audience as to what you're going to dance about, and then you dance about the thing in a foreign, in a Sanskrit language, or like where people don't usually understand what's happening. And I think that was the reason why it became like a thing where people were like, oh, we don't understand classical dancing, or we don't want to learn classical dancing. When I came to social media and I started putting out my art, and which was always Bharatnatyam, which is, I started experimenting, and then after coming to Mumbai, the experimentation started. I wouldn't even call it experimentation. The whole idea was to bridge modernity and traditionalism, and just to find a way to show people that Bharatnatyam is accessible. Indian classical is beautiful. Indian classical is accessible. The way I see the language, I wanted people to see it that way too. And that journey really resonated with people on social media. Bending the rules and not breaking it, so that the language, it's just, I always say that traditionalism is a language, but modernism is a dialect. So you just change the dialect, that's all. Like, for example, this is called Chamati Bor from Tripura, and you don't wear it like this. It's like a wrapper. So we took the same fabric, but we just put it into, so it's easier to wear, It's the same thing everywhere, We are not changing the language. And also, if you do not evolve with time, and say, oh, abhi log traditional cheezein nahi karte, or classical cheezein nahi seekhte. I think we have come a long way, but there's so much to go, so much to do, and so many miles to go before we sleep. I think we can only be authentic, we can only be true to our art, and the art speaks for you and does things that you cannot even fathom sometimes.
This was a good chat, Sadhvi.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here.